You're standing barefoot in total darkness, and 40 meters away something with 6-inch claws is deciding if you taste like dinner. This was every human's reality for over 90% of our species' existence. No walls, no locks, no shoes, just skin, bone, and the open dark. And yet here we are, 8 billion strong, somehow descended from creatures that should have been wiped off the map in a single bad night. So how did soft, slow, naked apes outlast monsters built specifically to destroy them? The truth is stranger and more unsettling than you think. And it didn't happen because of one lucky break. It happened because of a slow, brutal stacking of advantages, each one buying just enough time for the next to emerge. Let's be honest about how bad it actually was. Forget the image of rugged, spear-wielding hunters casually staring down lions. That's not where this story starts. Go back 2.5 million years, and early hominins were small, fragile, and biologically unremarkable. No fire, no real tools, no language worth the name. They were prey. Full stop. And the predators weren't the lions and hyenas you picture today. They were worse. There was a hyena the size of a modern lion with jaws strong enough to crack an elephant's femur like a breadstick. There were saber-toothed cats with canines nearly a foot long. Crocodiles that dwarfed anything alive now. Cave bears standing 12 feet tall on their hind legs. Even a giant eagle in New Zealand capable of taking down prey the size of an adult human. These weren't myths. They were real, evolved, efficient killers, and our ancestors lived among them, often clustered near the one resource every creature needs: water, which meant walking into ambush territory every single day just to survive until tomorrow. So how did we not go extinct in the first 100,000 years of this nightmare? It starts with something almost embarrassingly simple. We stuck together. Picture a saber-toothed cat scanning the grass at dusk. A lone human is an easy meal. 25 humans, screaming, throwing rocks, advancing as one. Suddenly, that wildebeest across the ridge looks far more appealing. This is the dilution effect, and it's not poetry, it's math. Being in a group doesn't make you faster or stronger, it just makes the odds of you specifically being chosen plummet. And it went further than numbers. Early humans, like the chimpanzees we still study today, almost certainly mobbed threats collectively. Noise, thrown objects, a unified wall of aggression that made a predator's mental calculus collapse. Because here's what people don't realize about apex predators. They're allergic to risk. A lion injured today can starve in 3 weeks. So when faced with something loud, coordinated, and willing to fight back from every direction, the smart move, the evolved move, is to walk away. Natural selection enforced this lesson with zero mercy. Groups that scattered didn't get a second chance. Groups that stood their ground passed on their genes. Then came the discovery that rewired everything. Fire. Not just warmth. Not just cooking. A weapon against instinct itself. Almost every large land predator carries a hardwired, ancestral fear of flame, born from millennia of fire being an uncontrollable natural disaster. Lightning, eruption, no warning, no negotiation. So when a leopard creeps toward a sleeping group and feels heat radiating from 40 meters out, sees flickering light erasing the cover of darkness, smells smoke curling into its nostrils, something primal in its brainstem screams retreat. And it does. Night, once the deadliest hours for our ancestors, suddenly became survivable. People slept in shifts. Someone always watched the flames. Someone always watched the black beyond them. Fire also drove off disease-carrying insects, sterilized food through cooking, hardened spear tips into lethal points, and opened up colder territories predators had once claimed uncontested. Before fire, the world acted upon us. After fire, we began acting upon the world. Now here's something most people never stop to consider. Sleep itself was a catastrophic vulnerability. A third of your life spent unconscious, defenseless, senses dimmed, unable to flee or fight. Before fire was reliable, our ancestors solved this the way our closest relatives still do. They went up into the trees. Chimpanzees build nightly nests above the reach of ground predators, and the bone structure of early humans suggests we did too, retaining climbing-capable shoulders and arms long after our feet had committed to walking. It wasn't perfect. Leopards climb beautifully, And we've found ancient hominin remains in old leopard kill caches and treetops. But it narrowed the danger from nearly every predator on the savanna down to just one. And then there were caves, shelter from wind, rain, and cold, with only one direction to defend. Except caves were also exactly where the worst predators denayed. Cave lions, cave bears, cave hyenas. Moving in wasn't just finding a home. It was sometimes evicting or being evicted by something with claws. But the deepest shift wasn't physical at all, it was cognitive. Language. The ability to describe a threat that wasn't standing in front of you. To say, the thing I saw near the eastern water yesterday, yellow coat, black spots. If you see tracks like that, go the other way. Without language, every individual has to learn danger firsthand, often in a single fatal lesson. With language, knowledge stops dying with the person who learned it. It spreads. It compounds across generations into something no single predator, no matter how lethal, can out-evolve. A living, growing archive of every way to die in that landscape and how to avoid it. And speaking of turning the tables, what do you think was the real tipping point where humans stopped merely surviving and started becoming the thing to fear? Drop your guess in the comments, because the next part of this story is exactly that moment. It begins with the spear. Not a sharpened stick, but an engineered weapon. The oldest known examples, roughly 400,000 years old, are front-weighted for stable flight, shaped with intention, carved from wood chosen for its specific properties. For the first time, a human could wound a predator without ever entering the range of its claws. Distance became a weapon, and predators, being intelligent, learn fast. A lion that takes a spear to the flank doesn't forget. Populations that repeatedly clashed with armed humans began to develop generational avoidance. The same behavioral shift we still see in wildlife near human settlements today. Fear, slowly and irreversibly, began flowing in the other direction. Ecologists call this dynamic the landscape of fear, the invisible mental map prey species build of where danger lives, which valleys to avoid, which waterholes turn deadly after the dry season starts. Every prey animal does this alone. Humans did it together, and that changed everything. Through language, individual sightings became shared maps. Shared maps became inherited wisdom. Settlements appear in the archaeological record on elevated ground, with clear sightlines and natural barriers, not by accident, but by calculated, accumulated knowledge passed down like a survival manual written in spoken word. And then there's our strangest advantage of all, one hiding in plain sight inside your own skin. We are pathetic sprinters. A lion can hit 60 kilometers an hour. We can't sustain even half that for more than a few exhausted seconds. But ask a lion to keep moving for 4 hours in 30-degree heat, and it will die of heat stroke before you do. Humans are among the only mammals on Earth built for persistence hunting, running prey down over hours and kilometers using a trait almost no other large animal has. Full-body sweating combined with an efficient upright stride. We can move and cool ourselves at the same time. Predators can't. We are slow, soft, unimpressive endurance machines that simply refuse to stop. By roughly 50,000 years ago, all of it converged. Full language, layered social bonds, symbolic thought, long-range planning. Cave paintings weren't decoration, they were data, migration routes, danger zones, hunting techniques. Bone needles, rope, and traps appeared, each one requiring imagination of a future that hadn't happened yet. Humans began driving herds off cliffs with coordinated fire and noise. And, more tellingly, they began deliberately hunting the apex predators that had once hunted them. The remains tell the story. Processed bones, used pelts, ritual treatment, suggesting these kills meant something beyond survival. It was a declaration. We are no longer prey. But this story doesn't end on a triumphant note, because it can't. The same intelligence, fire, and coordination that saved us also emptied the world around us. The woolly mammoth, gone. The saber-toothed cat, gone. The cave bear, the cave lion, the dire wolf, the elephant-crushing hyena, the Irish elk with its 4-meter antlers, all gone within a few thousand years of modern humans arriving on their continents. Climate played a role, but we were the one variable present at every extinction, on every continent, every time. We weren't the fastest. We weren't the strongest. We were just relentlessly, quietly the most dangerous thing the planet had ever produced. And by the time the predators understood what they were facing, it was already too late to be afraid. If this kind of deep dive into how we actually clawed our way to the top of the food chain is something you want more of, make sure you're subscribed, because there are far stranger chapters of the human survival story still to come.